Hi, my name is Leah Marcus, and I have a master's in counseling and art therapy from Ursuline College. I live in Ann Arbor, Michigan currently, and I'm also a certified Nurtured Heart Approach advanced trainer and peer mentor. And I own Reach Your Heart Out LLC, through which I give trainings in the Nurtured Heart Approach for parents, educators, and clinicians. And I'm here today to give some tips for kind of handling this pandemic time we're in that can work for clinicians but also parents. I have a little one at home who's 6.5 and been using these tools. So in a nutshell, the Nurtured Heart Approach was created by Howard Glasser a few decades ago. He was working as a therapist, working with really intense kids, and was finding that some of the typical techniques and tools at the time that maybe worked really well with more typical kiddos and families would kind of backfire with the kids who were really intense or had a lot of diagnoses going on or a lot of just challenging, heightened energy. And since that time, the approach has broadened and been brought into all different kinds of settings: homes, foster situations, classrooms, therapy practices, Head Start, juvenile detention, also just in the workplace, and kind of the later frontiers have been using this approach with ourselves as adults, as well as in social justice. So this is a very quick video just giving a few concepts and ideas from Nurtured Heart. This isn't by no means kind of the whole picture of it, but I wanted to just give some concepts here that might be helpful. So one of the primary factors of Nurtured Heart is to really notice the energy. And I'm talking about the relational energy between people, which sometimes feels like tension in the room, sometimes it feels like really close connection, but that is kind of this key factor that a lot of times doesn't get used, or it's kind of running the show underneath what we might be saying to someone. It's kind of among the nonverbals that are really, really still powerful. And so we want to use that. And in this time of COVID, there's certainly a lot of heightened intensity to go around, whether that's within ourselves and in the form of anxiety. Maybe we're experiencing outbursts of our own, or maybe our children are experiencing new levels of intensity that they haven't before. Maybe they were already pretty intense, but now everything is even more so. So regardless of that, what Nurtured Heart says is, okay, what do we want to do with this energy to use it as fuel rather than something that just bowls us over and overwhelms us? So what I want to convey here is this idea that we really have a lot of power. We might not feel like it, there's so many unknowns right now, but that we actually do have a lot of power in terms of where and when we invest our relationship and our presence with ourselves and our children or our clients. So really, I would invite you to think about, what do we show up for the most? And by show up, I mean, where do we react kind of the biggest or most animated, or spend the most time talking about? And what makes us really kind of come alive? And for most of us, I would say that tends to be when there's something going wrong. That's when we really, we're never too busy for a problem. But then when things are going smoothly, we tend to maybe check out a little bit, maybe scroll on our phone, maybe just try to rest or get something done. And we might give, oh, great, oh, thanks, good job. And especially for intense kids, the presence that we give to the positive stuff tends to be relatively boring. And so, we want to really think about where we show up the most. And when we tend to react the biggest or spend the most time on problems, children read that as kind of, I get the most out of life and out of my grown-up when I act out. And maybe at school, I get sent out of the classroom to go down the hall to the nice lady and talk to her, or I get the whole treatment team assembles, and so that can unintentionally send this message that okay, this is what I do, and this is what gets the adults I need to show up the most. And it's not manipulation. It's not malicious. It's just that children know where more is, and they are seeking connection. They need that now more than ever. So in terms of this kind of upside down kind of energy situation we have, how do we shift that? Well, we want to tune into what our values are in our home or in our relationships, and to then set boundaries and rules accordingly. What we are not going to stand for and what we are really available for instead. And then we take this kind of commitment to refuse to come alive the most when rules are broken. Instead, what we want to do is, as we are noticing our buttons or what the energy's doing or what makes us show up the most, we want to try to shift that energy toward being really vivid and specific about any and every little moment when the rules are being followed. And when we make that shift, this is not about scraping together yet more energy that we don't have, right? It's about, okay, I'm not going to spend energy here anymore. Instead, I am going to shift the energy I'm already spending toward the positive and growing, every little bit of behavior or character qualities that we want our child or our client to have. Any little bit of it that we see and notice and talk about and celebrate, it grows. We get more of that. And so when we make that shift and when it's consistently applied, our kids or our clients, they get this deep message of oh, okay, I now know how to get my grown-up's presence, and I don't need to do that through acting out anymore, or not nearly as much. Nobody's perfect. This is not about perfection. But, those behaviors that are driving us wild tend to just kind of not happen as much because they know there's this whole other avenue of success and relationship with us. And then, because this is not about perfection, when a rule is broken, it's about just kind of delivering whatever consequence we have with as little energy as possible. Just unceremonious, boring. And then the second there is any movement back in the right direction, we want to really show up for that and welcome the child back into that flow of connection and this time in that's really compelling. And this applies to ourselves as well as adults. A dysregulated adult cannot help regulate a child, right? So we want to notice and celebrate any and all little baby steps of success of ours, rather than ruminating or beating ourselves up for any ways that we mess up or disappoint ourselves. So it's kind of this inside job for the adult, the parent or the teacher or the therapist as well. And what a lot of people find is part of what I love about Nurtured Heart is that it is kind of at all levels. It's different than a technique you try on. It is really kind of becomes a way of life, but it becomes a whole new lens for seeing the world rather than just certain types of behaviors. So I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about this today. I wish you all the best in handling this pandemic time. And again, my name is Leah Marcus of Reach Your Heart Out, LLC, and have a good one. Thank you.